Hey, what's going on, guys? We've changed our studio and the way we do business over the past 2 years, and we wanted to make a video specifically about our biggest and most helpful upgrades. Before we get started on the actual upgrades I'm going to talk about, one of the bonus ones that is probably the most helpful out of almost everything in the studio is our espresso machine. We got that, I think, 2 years ago for kind of a steal, and that is by far the best thing that helps our creative process to make these videos and all of our other videos for the business. As you can also tell by the beginning of this video, it is our savior every morning. The first upgrade I want to talk about in this video is our switch from Premiere to Davinci Resolve for our editing software. We stuck with Premiere for a while because it was included in our Adobe suite where we needed Lightroom and Photoshop for other aspects of our business, so it was very easy to continue to use that. But Adam did a lot of research and he looked into Davinci Resolve and he quickly fell in love with it, and because it was free, or there was a free version of it, he started playing with it a lot and then ended up buying the full version. And then that's kind of when I started to transition to Resolve, and within probably a solid month of using it, I also fell in love with it, and I would say over the next 3 months, we pretty much switched all of our projects to Davinci Resolve, and that was probably the best decision we made in terms of like our editing process. Adam and I both felt that it gave us a lot more control over the final image, especially when it came to color grading. Once we learned the interface in Resolve and started using all of the tools that it had to offer, we ended up spending a lot more time on our final image, which we were really happy about. Another aspect of Resolve that we absolutely love is the shared database system, so that we can have all these projects live on multiple computers. In the future, we plan on making a more in-depth video about our switch from Premiere to Resolve to show a lot of the differences in pros and cons. Once we became busier with making videos, it became very important to be very efficient at color grading, which brings us to our next upgrade. When we expanded our studio last year, we really wanted to make a room solely for color grading and really fine-tune it for a very specific color. One of the first major purchases that we got for this area is a 55-inch Samsung OLED TV. Since each diode can be controlled separately in an OLED display, it can more accurately depict the black point and separation of color. Along with the TV, we also got a Blackmagic console that we can use specifically with Resolve to help us fine-tune coloring even more. This specifically offers a more kinesthetic workflow with editing. The next upgrade I want to talk about is our 2020 iMac Pro. At this point, we only had a 2015 iMac Pro and only one person can edit at a time, and we needed 2 computers so that Adam and I both could edit videos at the same time. This helped us get our project done much faster and also made the editing process a lot more seamless. This year, our most recent purchase was actually a Mac Studio for a very similar reason. We were shooting more heavily compressed footage and a lot bigger file sizes, as well as we also hired an in-house editor, so we needed 3 computers so that all 3 of us could have a hand in editing. Along with our computers, we also needed to upgrade our file management system. We started out with an OWC Thunder Bay Mini RAID enclosure that had 32 terabytes of storage. We then got a QNAP NAS drive that has 40 terabytes of storage so that we can access all of our files from multiple computers. This system acts as a safety net for our files so that if one of our drives fails, all of our footage is still backed up. This system was important to have because we were shooting a lot more lately, so we need a lot more storage for all of the files that we have. This brings us to our next upgrade, which is our newly purchased Panasonic BS1H. Along with this camera, we also purchased a 50mm anamorphic lens. The cameras that we currently use are the Sony a7S III as well as the Sony FX9. Along with these cameras, our favorite lenses to use that we recently got are the Sony G Master 35mm lens as well as the Sony G Master 50mm lens. Before we got the a7S III, we only had the Sony FX9 as well as the Panasonic S1H. The reason that we ended up selling our S1H and buying an a7S III was so that we could match our a7S III with the Sony FX9. On top of that, we also needed a more versatile camera that was better at autofocusing. But the reason that we recently purchased another Panasonic camera, the BS1H, was so that we could use it specifically with the anamorphic lens that already doesn't have autofocus, and this helps us become more creative, especially when it comes to music videos and other more thought out creative shoots. One of the biggest reasons that we wanted 2 cameras that matched well was for interviews. We're shooting a lot more interviews lately, so it's very important for us to have 2 cameras that match very well. Along with these interviews, we end up filming a lot of B-roll and a lot of quick on-the-go shooting, and the A7S III is perfect for that because of its autofocus, and when we filmed a lot with the S1H, autofocus was not very well or it didn't work as well, so it took us a lot longer to shoot things and it just became more of a hassle. One of the smaller upgrades that we've made was buying our Polar Pro Peter McKinnon ND filter. This ND filter has hard stops of ND, so it's easier to measure exposure when you're on set. Because you can more accurately control the amount of light that you're blocking with the ND filter, it helps you match exposure with other cameras that have other ND filters on. This ND filter can also prevent against vignetting, which a lot of other ND filters have problems with. Another small upgrade for us that ended up becoming a big help was a lot of our audio equipment. Like I said before, we've been filming a lot more interviews lately, so it was important for us to have a high quality microphone and a better audio recorder. For this, we had a Zoom F6 field recorder with 32-bit float. This helps with audio clipping and is also a very compact size, so it's easy to travel with and bring on set. The microphone that we got is a Sennheiser MKH416. On top of being a very high quality microphone, it is also moisture resistant, which is good for filming outside. The last thing we got in terms of audio equipment is a K-Tech boom pole so that we can boom audio while we're interviewing. The last major gear related upgrade that we made was an FPV drone. As of now, we have 2 FPV drones. One of them is made more for flying inside and the other is made for flying outside. Adam became interested in FPV a while back and wanted to get into a market for doing indoor tours as well as capturing a different style of drone cinematography. We chose to stick with the DJI ecosystem by getting the DJI FPV Goggles V2 as well as the DJI FPV controller. We started out with a Cineboop to get used to flying inside and understanding how to fly FPV drones in general. A few months later, we got into freestyle FPV drones so that we could practice flying outside and flying at higher speeds. The next video we make will be a more in-depth video about the process of us learning how to fly FPV drones and why we chose the gear that we did. Along with breaking into different markets with FPV drones, our studio space has helped us with that immensely as well. With this specifically, I'm referring to podcasts as well as studio rentals. We started renting our space out when we only had 1,000 square feet, and this slowly became very popular. With our expanded space, studio rentals are even more popular and help us cover some of our monthly expenses. Along with expanding our studio, we also acquired a small room across the hall from our main studio that we use as a gear storage area as well as a podcast studio. Filming and producing podcasts was a market that we always wanted to be involved with, but never had the right space for it. In general, the studio upgrades that we have made have helped us be more organized and helped our workflow with shooting in studio and making it easier for us to shoot on set. So those are some of our biggest upgrades that we've made over the past few years that have made all the difference. Although this video is very generalized, we plan on making more specific videos in the future about some of the topics that I mentioned in this video. The next few videos that we want to make are specifically about the organizational aspect of our studio, as well as a more in-depth look at FPV and our experience with it. If there are any topics that you'd like to hear more about specifically, leave a comment below and we'll try to make a video about it. Thanks for watching and we'll catch you guys next time.